Hey everybody, it's Jim of Animateducated. And today you're going to meet Sara Varon, who is the graphic novelist of Robot Dreams, which was nominated for this year's Academy Award for animation. And it's playing at a theater near you. So please welcome all the way from Chicago. Here's Sara Varon. Thank you for coming on Animateducated and talking about, this and other things that we'll talk about. But I was just curious, when did you first discover that discovered drawing stories or just drawing in general?
I was always, probably like you, I was always a drawer, like a doodler, and that's kind of what I did. I did little people. I mean, I guess they were sort of undeveloped little, they were like characters. I would draw them for a couple years and move on to the next set of characters, whatever. And I would just draw them a lot, doing stuff, which is kind of what I still do. And then I didn't write stories. I'm not really a writer. I think I write so that I can draw. I don't feel like which is why most of my stories in the beginning had no words. I mean, guess I tell my students that, like, if you write your own story, you get to draw what you want. So it's worth it to learn how to write, which I discovered in graduate school because we had to, I was like, oh, I can't write. And we had to. It was like really painful. And then I did it and I was like, oh, I can do this, And then I discovered that like it's like way better if you write because you get to draw whatever you want, as opposed to just drawing what you're given.
So you keep a sketchbook of just where you doodle stuff and then you pull things out of maybe and use them later
No,
on?
I'm really lazy. I feel like I
Oh,
would be a better person if I did a sketchbook, but I really just draw when I have to.
okay.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
I remember my son actually brought home Robot Dreams, and I'm like, "What is this?" And I'm like, looking through it, and then the next time I heard about it is with the new film that just came out, and I'm just curious, how did you feel about it?
I feel really lucky. I mean, I think they did. I couldn't have asked for a better outcome, in my opinion. I love it. I think I like all the decisions he made. And then I also feel really lucky because most people whose books get optioned, nothing happens, and the few people that I know who have had movies made out of their books, like they usually hate it. So I've lucky times too.
So I'm curious, how did he contact you? Did he contact you or his agent or how did that
No,
go
he
about?
contacted me and just through email and was gonna be in town and um said, he said I'm a director and I wasn't super familiar with his work. I hadn't seen Blanca Nieves, but he had sent it to me and it's so good. I have you seen it?
Yeah, is that the one about the bullfighter?
Yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
don't really care about fairy tales. And I was like, we're just really impressed that I was like, oh, fairy tale movie. But it was so good. So I was just like so impressed that he could do something new with, I was in graduate school, like everybody does illustration projects about fairy tales. And I feel like there's nothing new at this point, but that was like so cool. So, and so I was like, okay, I liked it. I was like, sure, why not? I'll meet you. And we had coffee and he seemed really cool. And he was interested in making it 2D. And that was like, for me, that was a big thing. So
Did you get to go there to Spain to see them do it?
yeah, I visited the studio maybe once or twice. And then I was keeping in touch with him. So he was like he would send me stuff periodically. Like he sent me the animatic and he sent me, before that, they made like a 1 minute trailer for funding, which was like after I saw that, I was like, oh, it's really gonna be a movie. Like I didn't realize it was really gonna be a movie. But I visited the studio and that was like so cool. And just to see how it all, like I mean, you work on features, like just to see like all like how you keep track of the progress on each scene, like papers were taped to the wall for like each scene and like what parts were done, and that was cool. I mean, like organizationally, it's so complicated.
Yeah. How did you come up with the idea of Robot Dreams?
What Robot Dream started out as a short comic for an anthology about robots. And I yeah, it seemed like a fun idea to write. I had not previously, I'd only drawn animal characters, and then this friend of mine was doing an anthology about robots, and so I was like, oh, I'll do. I think actually as a student, or as someone who's when I was learning in the beginning, being part of an anthology where you have to like draw something that's not like in your wheelhouse is like a great way to learn new stuff. So I came up with this 8-page story about a robot and a dog, and then right about that same time, which was probably like 2002 or 2003, and then like around that time, Macmillan was starting something up. All the big houses were starting stuff up, and they were looking for, they were soliciting for ideas, and so it seemed like that seemed really cool to get paid, because before that I hadn't really gotten paid, except for Chicken and Cat, I guess. But I had been doing comics as like a labor of love, and so I thought I would do. I had not done a long story before, so I thought I would do like a bunch of stories about this robot and dog for friends. And then I discovered that publishers did not want a book of short stories; they wanted a long story, and so I was able to sell the idea about the dog and the robot, and but I had to make it a long story. So I decided that if I made it take place over the span of a year and did 12 chapters, then I would basically do 12 short stories, and I could put them all together and they would become a long story. So that was how I did my first long story. I sort of tricked myself into doing it, which I think is why it's kind of very episodic, as opposed to now, there's like an editor who helps you have like a story arc that goes throughout the book and with a start and a finish. And that Robot Dreams was very much not like that.
This was called Odd Duck. I guess you did you write this or someone else wrote it and you did the illustrations?
I love that one. That's a
Yeah.
great story.
Yeah.
That was the first one where, like in the beginning, I got people would, they, in picture books, the publisher usually pairs up the writer and the illustrator, which I think I didn't know. I think people think you submit like a finished book and you should like have someone illustrate your idea and then submit it, but actually they're separate. So I got, I would periodically get manuscript or whatever, and that was the first one that I liked. So I took it, and it was a really good fit. And it was really, that was a fun one. And then after that, I did two other ones, or picture books. That one, A Duck, is kind of graphic novel.
The Odd Duck. I liked it because it was just kind of miscommunication of who's odd and who's not.
Right.
That was really
Yeah,
fun.
that's funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like as someone who's probably a weird person, I felt like I definitely identified with Theodora, the lady duck, who at the end was like, oh, they're calling me the eye duck. I thought you
Yeah.
were the, yeah.
What do you do as when you first come up with an idea and you say, yes, I want to make this into a book?
I mean, I know how I sold it in the beginning, but the industry has changed so much, so I don't, yeah, I mean, you usually just have to have like an idea and, um, like an idea and some sketches, and you don't really have to know that much where it's going, I think, or that has been my experience, because I've worked with the same publisher and they know I can finish a book. But yeah, it's more fun when you don't know exactly where it's going.
Okay.
But I think like New Shoes and Robot Dreams, I didn't know what was going to happen. So like the ending was a total surprise. That's a lot of fun, And New Shoes, I didn't really know how it was going to end, and the other ones, I just kind of made them up as I went along. This one, you really, because it's a mystery, you have to like plan things and you have to like plant seeds. So you really have to figure everything out before you start drawing,
And
which is
what
different.
you're talking about is the case with the golden bone. Is that the new one?
Yeah, you're right. That's the one that I'm working on now, which is a mystery. Which I'm not very mysterious, so I'm not sure why or like I'm not as very, I'm like the least sneaky person in the whole world. So I don't know why I decided to do mystery, but somehow I did. That's what I'm doing.
And I guess that one that stars your dog, Sweet Pea.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah, that's Sweet Pea. I
yeah.
think that's why I wanted to do it, because I just want to make art about my dog, really.
And can you tell any about the story or how it begins or
Well, it's like super rated G, so there nobody gets murdered. It's pretty non-violent. I mean, my stuff is usually, my books are usually, the audience seems to be 6 to 10, So it's about a missing dog bone. And she lives in a little community. And I needed, for the first one, I needed a cast of characters. So I just asked my friends to tell me about their pets. So that was my cast of characters. So I thought that was a good trick. And then, then all of a sudden I had this cast of characters and each one had a personality. So you know, that's it. They're pretty much kind of domestic animals. There's dogs, cats, a rabbit, animals you'd find in the city.
So is this going to be a series like the case of the golden bone and a case of the something else?
Yeah, so I'm doing the second one right now, which
Oh.
ends up most of my books, they're really like kind of inspired by what is happening or they're like, what is immediately in my surroundings. And I was in New York for so long. So most of them have like a New York theme, but then I moved to Chicago. I think, whatever, in between book one and book two. And so it's the second one is about it takes place in the woods. So the second one is pretty different and has like a different set of characters.
Oh, okay. And so this first one's coming out pretty soon, right? I
It's
guess
May 28th. Yeah, it was initially June 11th, and I think they just pushed it up to coincide with the movie release.
have you gotten approached by any other people saying, "Hey, Sarah, we like this cat and duck movie, well, whatever it's called,
Right.
chicken."
Yeah, I did. When you do books, people kind of approach you frequently. So I have been approached. Usually, nothing had ever happened until Pablo made Robot Dreams into a movie. I have been approached about a couple projects, but I'm not expecting anything. Who knows what will happen? Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks again for coming on Animated Educated, and just look for everybody should pick up your book and check out Robot Dreams coming out this summer, a theater near you,
May or June.
hopefully.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Ton. It was fun talking to you.
Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Sara Varon. And yeah, pick up her new book, The Case of the Golden Bone, coming out to a bookstore near you. If you enjoyed this interview in any way, you can press that button right there to subscribe, or you can take a look. I've got other videos below. Here's a few that you might be interested in. And we'll see you next time on Animated Educated.